Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam, devotees, Jai Shri Prabhupada, Hari Bol, to Bharti Mataji, Meenakshi Mohini, Vishwanath Prabhu, Ramchandra Prabhu, Pawan Prabhuji for leading the chanting this morning. Let's continue with our Mangalacharan, bhajan and then reading. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalaakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Namam Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshitarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavranda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Okay. Anybody would like to sing prayer today? Krishna Hoite Chaturmukha. This is not a very difficult melody. Easy. Anybody can try. Whoever has not tried so far this week. Meenu Mataji. Or who else is on the call? Anandini Gopika Mataji. Anybody wants to try?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, sorry, bit under the weather.
Oh, okay. No problem. Hope you feel better. Thank you, Mataji. All right, then I'll sing and then one of us can read the translations. Okay. Krishna hoite chaturmukha hoy Krishna sevunmukha Brahma hoite naradira mati Narada hoite vyasa madhva kohe vyasa dasa Purna pragya padmanabha gati Narhari Madhava Bamshe Akshobhya Paramahamse Sishya Boli Angikara Kore Akshobhira Shishya Jaya Tirthaname Parichaya Taradasi Jnana Sindhu Tore Taha hoite dayanidhi taradas vidyanidhi Rajendra hoilo taha aite Tahara kinkara jaya dharmaname parichaya Parampara jano bhalo mate Jaya Dharma Dasi Khyati Shri Purushottama Jati Tahaite Ramanya Tirtha Suri Vyasa Tirtha Taradasa Lakshmi Pati Vyasa Dasa Tahaite Madhavendra Puri Madhavendra Purivara Shishabara Shishwara Nityananda Shri Advaita Vibhu Ishvara Puri ke Dhanya Kori Lena Shri Chaitanya Jagada Guru Gaura Maha Prabhu Mahaprabhu Shri Chaitanya Radha Krishna Nahi Anya Rupanuga Janera Jivana Vishvambara Priyankara Shri Swarupa Damodara Shri Goswami Rupa Sanatana Rupa Priya Mahajan Jiva Raghunatana Tara Priya Kavi Krishna Dasa Krishna Dasa Priya Bala Narottama Seva Para Jarapada Vishwanatha Asha विश्वनाथ भक्त साथ बलदेव जगन्नाथ तारा प्रिय श्री भक्ति विनोद महाभागवत बर श्री गौर किशोर बर हरि भजन तेजारा मोद इहार परमहंस गौरंगेर निज वंश तादेरा चरणे मम गति आमी सेवा उदासीन नामे ते त्रिदंडी दीन श्री भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती श्रीवार्षभानवीवर सदा सेव्य सेवा परा ताहर दयित दास नाम तार प्रधान प्रचारको श्री भक्ति वेदांत नामो पतित जनिते दोया धाम हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे श्री गुरु परंपरा की जय। श्रील भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती ठाकुर की जय। जगत गुरु श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। Anybody would like to read the translation? All right, I will read then. Hare Krishna. In the beginning of creation, the science of devotional service was received by the four-headed Brahma from the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna. Devarshi Narada's understanding of this divine science was obtained from Brahma. The great sage Krishna Dvaipayana Vyas, who was empowered to compile the Vedic literatures, became a disciple of Devarshi Narad. Sripad Madhvacharya, the founder of the Shuddha Dvaita school of Vedanta philosophy, who visited Vyasadeva at Badrika Ashram in the 13th century to learn from him Vedanta philosophy, calls himself a servant of Krishna Dvaipayana Vyas. Purna Pragya Tirtha Madhva is the guru and sole refuge of Padmanabha Tirtha. The two other principal disciples of Madhva are Narhari Tirtha and Madhava Tirtha. Madhava Tirtha accepted the great Paramhamsa Akshobhya Tirtha as a disciple. The principal disciple of Akshobhya Tirtha was known as Jaya Tirtha. Jaya Tirtha's service was for his disciple Jnanasindhu. Dayanidhi received the science of devotional service from Jnanasindhu, and the servant of Dayanidhi was Vidyanidhi, Vidyadhiraja Tirtha. Rajendra Tirtha became a disciple of Vidyadhiraja Tirtha. Rajendra Tirtha's servant was known as Jayadharma or Vijayadhvaja Tirtha. In this way, you should properly understand this disciplic succession. The great sannyasi Shri Purushottam Tirtha received his knowledge in the service of his guru, Vijayadhvaja Tirtha, Jayadharma. The principal disciple of Purushottam Tirtha was Subramanya Tirtha. His servant was the great Vyasa Tirtha, Vyasaraya. Vyasa Tirtha's servant was Lakshmipati Tirtha, whose disciple was Madhavendra Puri Goswami. The chief disciple of Madhavendra Puri was Ishwara Puri, and two of his other disciples were the renowned incarnations of Godhead, Sri Nityananda and Advaita Acharya. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the spiritual preceptor of all the worlds, made Ishwara Puri greatly fortunate by accepting him as his spiritual master. Mahaprabhu, Sri Chaitanya, is non-different from Sri Radha and Krishna, and is the very life of those Vaishnavas who follow Sri Rupa Goswami. Sri Sarup Damodar Goswami, Rupa Goswami, and Sanatan Goswami were the givers of great happiness to Vishwambar, Sri Chaitanya. The great souls, Jiva Goswami and Raghunath Das Goswamis, became very dear to Sri Rupa Goswami. Jiva Goswami was a disciple of Rupa Goswami, and Raghunath Das Goswami, a disciple of Advaita Acharya's disciple, Yadunandana Acharya, was accepted by Rupa and Sanatan as their third brother. Raghunath Das Goswami's beloved student was Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. Krishnadas Kaviraj was an intimate friend of Loknath Goswami. They lived together in Vrindavan and always discussed the topics of Krishna with one another. Loknath Goswami, a disciple of Gadadhar Pandit, had only one disciple, whose name was Narottam Das. Narottam Das was always engaged in the service of his Guru, and he also engaged himself in the service of his Guru's intimate friend. Thus, he became very dear to Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. To serve the feet of Narottam Das Thakur was the only desire of Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, who was the fourth Acharya in disciplic succession from Narottam Das. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur was the Siksha Guru, instructing spiritual master of Baladev Vidyabhushan, to whom he taught the precepts of Srimad Bhagavatam. Jagannath Das Babaji was a very prominent Acharya after Shri Baladev Vidyabhushan and was the beloved Siksha Guru of Sri Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Bhaktivinoda Thakur's intimate friend and associate was the eminent Mahabhagavat Sri Gaur Kishore Das Babaji, whose sole joy was found in Hari Bhajan. These great saintly Vaishnavas are all Paramahamsas or devotees of the highest order, and they are all part of Lord Gauranga's own spiritual family. Their holy feet are my refuge. I have no real interest in devotion services, and I am a poor and lowly Tridandi sannyasi named Sri Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati. The renowned Sri Varshabhanavi Daita Das, the initiated name of Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati, is always engaged in the service of his spiritual master, Srila Gaur Kishore Das Babaji. His foremost disciple preacher is Sri A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada, who has spread the message of Lord Chaitanya throughout the world and is thus a reservoir of mercy and compassion for all fallen souls. Hare Krishna. Yes, each of these names, like you said, are purifying. They're all eternal associates of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Just by reading them, reading about them, reading their names from our tongue, hearing them through our ears, purifies our consciousness. It's just nice to see. Initially, they all had suffix of Tirthas. Then they all had suffix of Goswamis. And now most of them have suffix of Dasas. But yeah, that was some nice thing. But I had this poster also, which I can share later, but nicely describes this whole parampara, as we said, Brahma, Madhva, Gaudiya Sampradaya, because Brahmaji had also other disciples. So we are in the line of Madhvacharya, who was the fifth year after Brahma, Narada, Vyasa, Madhva. And then after that, of course, we had all these Tirthas, Padmanabha Tirtha, Narhari Tirtha, Madhva Tirtha. So all these disciples, and then of course then we came to Madhavendra Puri, who was there, and then of course after Madhavendra Puri, Ishvara Puri comes Lord Chaitanya, and then we call as our parampara as Brahma, Madhva and Gaudiya. From here, all the disciples who were born or after Chaitanya Mahaprabhu initiated the Sankirtan Yagya from Gaudiya Desh, which is Bengal. So it is in this parampara from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to Rupa Goswami to Raghunath Jiva Goswami, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, who compiled the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Narottam Das Thakur, who compiled all the wonderful prayers that we sing every morning. And yeah, so like that, the parampara goes on. Okay, wonderful. So let's continue with reading of Prabhupada Leelamrit. So yesterday we read chapter 29. Yes, so Prabhupada was mentioning about unlimited opportunity and limited time. So yes, in this day, everybody is running everywhere, right? There's just no time, non-stop. Everybody is so busy in the grind of the daily grind that we don't know where we are running, what for we are running. There's just no time to pause and take a break and reflect on why we are running, for what for we are running. But the time is also running away from us, just as we are trying to run after all these materialistic things. So unlimited opportunity but limited time. That is the reflection of a pure devotee versus materialistic people, like we were reading earlier, Prabhupada, Back to Godhead, when Prabhupada published that article, No Time, the chronic disease of modern society, right? Nobody has any time to stop and reflect why we are doing what we are doing. But for a devotee, the time always expands. So even the Prabhupada had that sense of urgency. We see until his last breath, he was completely surrendered to the service of the Lord and service of his Guru. And for pure devotees, time always expands. Time kind of stops yesterday in our discussion with Amrind Prabhu. There was a nice few things he was mentioning, which really resonated well. One thing he was saying that when he was small, one of Prabhupada's disciples told him, he was very young at that time, so he was saying that, how it kind of etched in his heart. That particular example, he said that, when we travel, so like in flight, depending on when we travel, at what time in what direction we are traveling and what speed we are traveling. Sometimes if you start at 6 a.m. from one country and you land in some other country, it may still be 6 a.m., right? If you are trying to go west. And similarly, if you start from there and you go further west, the time may still be 6 a.m., right? So like that, for he was saying that example resonated with me so much, but I didn't know how is that possible as a small child because I had never traveled at that time. But then I realized later, so that Gyan became Vigyan. So like that, the time, if utilized properly in the service of the Lord, the time actually stops for a pure devotee, or it expands for a pure devotee. But for materialistic people, yeah, we are always running after things and we have no track of time, or time just uh, drips away, just like water drips away from a broken pot. What life is dripping away, time is dripping away from our hands, right? Kamala dala jala, jivana talamala. So if we don't utilize this body, this time that we have, in the right service of the Lord, then what can be more astonishing? That was another verse that we read yesterday in our Sanskrit Subhashita. So yes, time is very, very important, and we have to properly utilize time. Okay, let's continue with chapter 30, London, a dream fulfilled. Srila Prabhupada arrives in London with wonderful reception, with kirtan and loving personal exchanges with devotees. Reporters asked questions, and Srila Prabhupada explained the importance of chanting and singing Hare Krishna, and went to the Hare Krishna Center in a chauffeured limousine. Srila Prabhupada meets George Harrison, John and Yoko, Beatles, asks them to understand and preach Krishna consciousness. Yad yad acharati shreshtas tat tad evetaro janaha. Everyone follows the leader and distribute prasadam. Okay. Srila Prabhupada met up with three couples after a long separation and applauded them for wonderful work done. Shyamsundar Prabhu announced 50,000 copies of Hare Krishna Kirtan videos sold. And Srila Prabhupada said the money to be utilized to build a nice temple for Krishna. Anyone can be a good preacher if the preacher was free from sense gratification and desire for profit, adoration, and distinction. Srila Prabhupada was working on Krishna book at 1 a.m. in the morning, and parallelly, third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam with word-to-word synonyms and translation and purport. The first volume of Krishna book, manuscript with beautiful pics, were ready to be printed. Srila Prabhupada's arrival in London was captured in all leading journals. Srila Prabhupada went for morning walk, and although climate was not suitable for him, Srila Prabhupada was preaching basis scenery visible during his walk. Seeing the yellow grass, Srila Prabhupada said that if the roots are not attached, then grass dry up. Similarly, our root should be Krishna, else we would also dry up. Srila Prabhupada also chanted one chapter of Bhagavad Gita every day and said that anywhere Bhagavad Gita is read is a tirtha. Srila Prabhupada taught the devotees how to make sandesh. Srila Prabhupada was speaking and acting in Krishna consciousness every moment, and his disciples felt bliss and renewed determination just by being with Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada played with Saraswati, the little daughter of Malati Mataji, and her attraction to Krishna was through Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada sang bhajans. Yamuna Mataji cried with ecstasy listening to Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada said his favorite bhajan is Hari Hari Vipale Janamagunainum Hari Bol. That is what we sang last week. And Malati Mataji is going to be here today, Hari Bol. And we talked about Kirtirtha, Hari Hari Bol. Okay. Shyamsundar Prabhu got permission to occupy 7 Bari Place and was remodeling it to make it a temple. Srila Prabhupada said temple was required to hear about Krishna repeatedly, engage in deity worship, have prasadam together, and build the connection amongst devotees. Srila Prabhupada's preaching went well in London. 350 youths joined the program and asked wonderful queries. And Srila Prabhupada's Hare Krishna record was also a hit in England and was becoming famous around the world. When someone said there were ghosts, Srila Prabhupada simply chanted Hare Krishna and drove away the ghosts. The temple at Bari Road was getting ready, and Shamsundar Prabhu was making a big altar that needed big deities. Mr. Doyal had deities that he wanted to give. Srila Prabhupada went there immediately and got the deities of Radha and Krishna installed, excuse me, at Bari Place. Srila Prabhupada was 73. He had opened 21 temples and told his disciples to form a GBC for administrative purposes so that he could focus on writing books. Srila Prabhupada told to engrave Shamsundar Prabhu's name outside the altar, honoring him for the efforts for the temple. And he told Yamuna Mataji before leaving London that follow my instructions of deity worship and read my books. You can go back home, back to Godhead. Just by following instructions of deity worship and reading my books, you can go back home, back to Godhead. Hare Krishna. Okay, so this is Srila Prabhupada played with Saraswati, little daughter of Malati Mataji, and her attraction to Krishna was through Srila Prabhupada. Two pictures here of little Saraswati. Chapter 31. A threat against ISKCON. Srila Prabhupada returns to New York. Devotees wait at airport, ecstatic with the arrival of Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada preaches Krishna consciousness to reporters. Srila Prabhupada took preaching reports from devotees on the way to center in the limousine, and each devotee felt blessed in Srila Prabhupada's care. Srila Prabhupada said, if you clean the deity's utensils, you clean your heart. Srila Prabhupada named the printing press ISKCON Press and said that this was his heart and said that there should be Hindi and English press publication. Sankirtan and distributing back to Godhead are the field work of ISKCON. Srila Prabhupada then went to Los Angeles. They got their own temple on Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's. Srila Prabhupada spoke that ISKCON was home where devotees could practice devotional service. There was Srila Prabhupada garden where devotees discussed. Srila Prabhupada said Los Angeles was a role model for rest of ISKCON. Srila Prabhupada finishes the Krishna book. He explains how governing body is to be formed for administration so that he can focus on writing books. Srila Prabhupada went to San Francisco, where 4th Rath Yatra happened, with over 10,000 devotees and gave classes on Krishna consciousness. Srila Prabhupada went back to Los Angeles, awarded sannyas to his disciples for purifying them. Certain incidents made Srila Prabhupada call for Rupanuga Prabhu, Tamal Krishna Maharaj, and Bhagavan Prabhu to discuss about setting up GBC and announced first 12 GBC secretaries. Srila Prabhupada trained his disciples to counterattack Mayavadism, explained how Guru is the personal servant of Krishna. Srila Prabhupada turned 74 and Vyas Puja ceremony, there was no pushpa. Srila Prabhupada got angry and told them to observe the next day, wherein he would teach them how to worship the spiritual master. Next destination is India. Chapter 32. India, Dancing White Elephants. Srila Prabhupada returns to India after 3 years of his first visit from the West, and he reached Calcutta from Tokyo, and two of Srila Prabhupada's American disciples, Jayapataka Maharaj and Achyutananda Maharaj, bowed down upon seeing their spiritual master. Srila Prabhupada approaching in saffron silk robes. Srila Prabhupada smiled and embraced them. Srila Prabhupada's godbrothers and friends had come. The reception was festive and Drab Airport transformed into heavenly scene. Achyutananda Maharaj and Japataka Maharaj ushered Srila Prabhupada to a flower-bedecked car to the VIP lounge. Transcendental melodious kirtan ensued, and then Srila Prabhupada gave class on glories of Harinam and answered reporters. Srila Prabhupada went to the home of Mr. Das Gupta, and Tamal Krishna Goswami, who had come with Srila Prabhupada, had a culture shock seeing honking, crowd, incredible traffic, etc. However, Achyutananda Maharaj and Jayapataka Maharaj got acclimatized to Calcutta and had preached in many homes and attracted crowds by chanting in public. Srila Prabhupada's sister, Pishima Tai, had prepared wonderful prasadam for Srila Prabhupada, and all devotees and Srila Prabhupada induced everyone to eat sumptuously. A.M. Achyutananda Maharaj asked Srila Prabhupada if he could take sannyas. Srila Prabhupada said yes, and told Jayapataka Maharaj also to take sannyas. In 1970, on the most auspicious Radha Ashtami day, Achyutananda Maharaj and Jayapataka Maharaj got their sannyas. That makes it 51 years completion on 14th September 21, 51st sannyas anniversary. Very cool. This is Jayapataka Maharaj Sannyas anniversary. Okay. Calcutta was in the turmoil, and Srila Prabhupada advised chanting Hare Krishna as the only solution and asked his sannyasis to perform kirtan. He called them his dancing white elephants. The Sankirtan party got good response. Srila Prabhupada initiated the ISKCON Life Membership Program, started at Indian rupees 1111, and get free access to Srila Prabhupada's books and free accommodation at ISKCON centers around the world. Srila Prabhupada was preaching 24 hours a day and answering correspondence and providing guidance to all ISKCON devotees all around the world. Srila Prabhupada wanted to establish a temple at Mayapur, which was not different from Vrindavan, which would be ISKCON's world headquarters. Srila Prabhupada arrived in Bombay for a preaching program and he asked many of his Western disciples to join, and they all do Sankirtan in the streets of Mumbai and Chowpatty Beach for the pleasure of Srila Prabhupada. In the public program, which started with Kirtan, the Indians began crying in uncontrolled happiness, seeing the genuine Krishna bhakti of these foreigners. Chowpatty Beach was in an uproar of Harinam Sankirtan. Then Srila Prabhupada spoke, saying, Sadachar comes automatically to one who takes to Krishna consciousness. And it was reported in all newspapers. In all programs, Srila Prabhupada emphasized the chanting of Hare Krishna Mahamantra and Harinam Sankirtan. Srila Prabhupada stationed Achyutananda Maharaj, Jayapataka Maharaj, Hamsadutta Prabhu in Calcutta, and Tamal Krishna Goswami and Shyamsundar Prabhu in Mumbai to establish ISKCON centers in two of India's major cities. Then Srila Prabhupada went to Amritsar, where he continued his preaching marathon for days together. Srila Prabhupada was in train back to Mumbai and asked Yamuna Mataji and Kaushalya Mataji to cook hot rice in train. When they managed to get permission and cook and brought to Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada said, My goddesses of fortune have come. Srila Prabhupada took the rice with little kachori, puri, and little pickle and was very pleased. The train halted in Delhi. Someone gave sweets to Srila Prabhupada and asked Srila Prabhupada to come to Delhi. Srila Prabhupada asked Gurudas Prabhu to get down and see what can be done in Delhi. And then a team was formed with Gurudas Prabhu and Yamuna Mataji. And team got down in Delhi, although feeling sad and separation from Srila Prabhupada, but ready to follow his instructions. Srila Prabhupada stayed in Chembur this time in Mumbai in the home of Manohar Lal Agarwal called Ram Sharanam. Srila Prabhupada was trying for an ISKCON center in Mumbai. Sumati Murarji, who helped Srila Prabhupada print his third volume of Srimad Bhagavatam, helped with the first travel to the West by Jaladuta, was so happy to see Srila Prabhupada again and arranged for a program to speak at Scindia House in Juhu. Srila Prabhupada said, whether in his presence or absence, the ISKCON movement would carry on very well if all the disciples continued their prescribed chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Okay, this is the dancing white elephants of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. These are early pictures from India. Okay, wonderful. We'll pause here for today. Yes, so again, a lot of very, very important instructions from Srila Prabhupada. Should continue our chanting, and the purity of our sadhana determines our progress. Like he was saying, for devotees, sadachar comes automatically, right? And this was one example that he would always give to. I think there was one professor from University of California who would challenge Prabhupada, like, what is this? It's like you're hypnotizing, you're just chanting one thing, and then this whole philosophy is just about chanting, and then brainwashing people's minds. And Prabhupada was saying, well, if you think, and Prabhupada actually he quoted from some verses from scriptures, and Prabhupada of course quoted, he would say, where is it mentioned that we should chant always? And Prabhupada told him about Satam Kirtayanto Mam from Bhagavad Gita. And of course, we have this Hare Nam, Hare Nam, Hare Nam Eva Kevalam, right? And all the things from different scriptures Prabhupada quoted, but then he again quoted something. Prabhupada said we can keep on going back and forth like this. That's why we should follow the authority. And the authority Prabhupada quoted was Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who gave us this chanting of the holy names. And he said, practically we can see, in the lives of these Western disciples, you can see, what their lives have been transformed from. They had all material wealth, and they had, name, fame, everything, but still they were not satisfied. But when they started chanting the holy name of the Lord, then you could see the transformation happened. So Prabhupada would always challenge that, that yeah, the holy name is so potent, so powerful that it can purify anybody and everybody, even though they may have committed the most abominable sins. But that is the purity, that is the power of the holy name. And yeah, again and again he's saying the similar themes, to different devotees. But yeah, chanting of the holy names. He said deity worship. He said reading my books. So all of these limbs that if we do, we can go back home, back to God, as Prabhupada was saying. And like I say again and again, and I read, I think it was in Bhagavad Gita or Bhagavatam, some purport I read where Prabhupada specifically mentions about Grihasthas. He says clearly that yes, chant, read, do deity worship, and have prasadam. For Grihasthas, those are the things that Prabhupada mentions. So yeah, if you do one of those, if you do all of those, of course, the more the merrier. So um, yeah, we should do that. And yes, these dancing white elephants and what did he call? Goddess of fortune, goddess of fortune. So Lakshmi Devi. These are all Lakshmi Devis, in the garb of human bodies, but they are all eternal Vaikuntavasis, Golokavasis, all these disciples of Srila Prabhupada. So he's telling them this famous pastime. We remember where Mataji goes into the train superintendent's cabin and says, "If you don't allow me permission to cook, I will jump out of the train." So that was a very nice pastime. Um, yeah, so many things, wonderful things. And again, like this, the chanting, the power of the chanting, again, that reminds me of and the Prabhu's quote that, people who just sing kirtan, because they have a very mellifluous, melodious voice, that is just entertainment, that is sense gratification. If a kirtaniya doesn't properly do their japa, so that is the power of japa, that is the importance and significance of japa, as and the Prabhu Shripada and the Prabhu would mention, that we should first do our 16 rounds sincerely, attentively, and then we can lead kirtan, right? So it's not like otherwise, it's not just like somebody has very nice voice or somebody sings in very good tune, then they may just be able to attract people, but that is not going to cleanse the hearts of people who are listening to that kirtan. So if we are practicing our sadhana nicely, if we are doing our vows, which is the first thing that Prabhupada asked us during initiation, or our Guru Maharaj asked us, is to chant 16 rounds attentively. We do that and we follow the four regulative principles where we are not committing other sins like these are the dancing white elephant. Prabhupada gives the other example of the mad elephant, right? So if we commit sins and we do chanting, then we are just committing namaprad. We are committing offenses against the holy name. So we should first stop committing the sins and we should chant attentively. And we do both of those, then we can become these dancing white elephants instead of becoming mad elephant. So yeah, that is the importance, that japa is so important that we have to do that. And then we can lead kirtan very nicely. Even if you don't lead nicely, it will still have the power and the potency to cleanse the hearts of all the, people who are actually listening to those kirtans. So that is the message from Srila Prabhupada and from his sincere disciples for today. Okay, any other thoughts, comments, reflections? We saw Prabhupada again also went from east to west, and time had stopped for him. The speed at which he was traveling, from west to east, east to west, just mind-boggling. From US to Europe to India, and back and forth, and in America, so many places he was visiting. Okay. No other thoughts, no other comments? Then we'll pause here for today. Thank you so much. Panchakalpatarubhyascha kripasindhubhyev cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Prabhupada Leela Amrit ki jai.
Jai.
Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari
Hare
Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna.